Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads. Lee here. I am on my third take of this because I'm having a hell of a day. And because I'm having a hell of a day, I'm having a ginger beer in a fancy glass, non-alcoholic. Anywho, New York Times just put out their 100 most notable books of 2024. And I've got it narrowed down to two piles. 8 that I have read, and 7 that I have not read. Originally, I was going to split this up between 2 different weeks, but I'll do one today and post one tomorrow, because next week they should have their top 10 list, and I'm interested in seeing if I have any of the top 10 that they choose. If I do, and I have not read it, I will probably consider reading one of the top 10, if I already have it, before the end of the year. But let's get started on what I have. I used to have a subscription to the New York Times, Sundays only. Apparently they don't deliver where I live anymore. It got to be a lot of newspapers stacking up, but I kind of miss it, even though I can go online. I do miss looking at the New York Times book review every week. I know I can look online. It's not the same to me as having it in my hands, but I'm not buying as many books, so. One of the first that they recommend, these are all in alphabetical order by title, except for Garten, which is stuck in there randomly. I'm not sure why it is the way it is, but these are all alphabetical order by title, so no order preference, and none on the New York Times list either. The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I'll tell you what it's about first. Early morning, August 1975. A camp counselor discovers an empty bunk. Its occupant, Barbara Van Laar, has gone missing. Barbara isn't just any 13-year-old. She's the daughter of the family that owns the summer camp and employs most of the region's residents. And this isn't the first time a Van Laar child has disappeared. Barbara's older brother similarly vanished 14 years ago, never to be found. As a panicked search begins, a thrilling drama unfolds, chasing down the layered mysteries of the Van Laar family and the blue-collar community living and working in its shadow. Moore's multi-threaded story invites readers into a rich and gripping dynasty of secrets. This was my first Liz Moore, and probably my last, unless I forget about it and she publishes something that everybody's excited about. I thought this was just okay. It was a good read, but I felt like it didn't know whether it wanted to be a mystery thriller or a family drama, and it tried so hard to be both, but ended up being neither. I did like, there was a reveal in here that I really liked, 2 reveals, both of which I liked. I just felt it took a long time to get where it was going, and it was kind of a slog for me. But apparently not for everybody. I've got to figure out a place to put these where it's not driving me crazy. Okay. So next up, one of the things that I did in 2024, back early summer when the Booker long list was announced, was, actually the next 4 books are all from the Booker long list. So what I did was, I did a Booker band project. I'd read a book from the Booker long list, and then I'd read a band book, they weren't associated at all. I was just doing them at the same time, because I wanted to split up my Booker books. I did not want to read them back to back. And that has been one of my most enjoyable projects all year long, and I look forward to doing it again next year. Of the books that I read, some I really loved, one I totally disliked, and others I felt that went over my head a little bit. And that first one that I'm going to talk about did go over my head. I have not read, nor do I have, the actual winner of the Booker Prize. I'm hopefully my company will give out a gift card for Christmas this year, and if they do, then I will go ahead and probably buy it. That's Orbital by, I forgot her name. And So anyway, I will get that. I got last year's Booker winner. Haven't read that either. But next year, I do look forward to doing the Booker project again. It was so fun. It was refreshing, and it really stretched my reading boundaries. So anyway, Headshot is one of the 100 most notable books of 2024, according to the New York Times. This is by Rita Bullwinkel. This is one that I felt maybe went a little bit over my head. I enjoyed it. It was very short chapters. It was told like in boxing matches. There were some things that I really appreciated about it. But again, I think that some of it just went over my head. This is a book I'll definitely want to keep because there were some really, really great parts of it. She had needed another person in her life to tell her that she was a real person and that she might not be special, but that she was fine. So let me tell you what this is about. An unexpected tragedy at a community pool, a family's unrelenting expectation of victory, the desire to gain or lose control, to make time speed up or stop, to be frighteningly, undeniably good at something. Each of the 8 teenage girl boxers in this blistering debut novel has her own reasons for the sacrifices she has made to come to Reno, Nevada, to compete to be named the best in the country. Through a series of face-offs that are raw, ecstatic, and punctuated by flashes of humor and tenderness, prize-winning writer Rita Bullwinkel animates the competitors' pasts and futures as they summon the emotion, imagination, and force of will required to win. Frenetic, surprising, and strikingly original, Headshot is a portrait of the desire, envy, perfectionism, madness, and sheer physical pleasure that motivates young women to fight, even, and perhaps especially, when no one else is watching. This was interesting to me because, women or not, I don't really understand what makes someone want to fight competitively. Like, I don't want to spend my life getting hit in the face, especially now that I've got new teeth. I definitely am not interested in that. And I never have been really that physical a person, so maybe that's part of it, but I just not for me. However, that boxing being not for me, or MMA, any of that kind of stuff being not for me, Headshot was. I enjoyed Headshot, even though I felt like I really didn't 100% appreciate it. And that's on me, not her. Next up is James by Percival Everett. Some people did, some people didn't, but before I went into James, I did a reread of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. It was difficult for me, not for the reasons I thought it would be. It was difficult for me because of he wrote it in the vernacular of the time, which was very hard to read now. But I feel that I got a better appreciation of James when I went into it. I really liked James. James is not one of my best books of the year. I don't know why. It is a book I really liked. I really appreciated it. But it just, there are other books, 2 here in this list, that really just spoke to me. And I think that's what it is. It's not that James is not great. James is great. I understand that. But when I look for my list of my favorite books of the year, do they speak to me and do they keep talking to me afterward, after I finish it? Not everyone will keep talking to me, but some of them just really speak to me in the moment. And that one, that is for me. So I love James, appreciate it. It is great. Let me tell you what it's about. Although I really don't think I need to. I hope that we've all know what Huck Finn is. So this is Huck Finn told from Jim's point of view. When Jim overhears that he is about to be sold to a man in New Orleans, separated from his wife and daughter forever, he runs away until he can formulate a plan. Meanwhile, Huck has faked his own death to escape his violent father. As all readers of American literature know, thus begins the dangerous and transcendent journey by raft down the Mississippi River toward the elusive and unreliable promise of the Free States and beyond. It's coming back to me now. What I loved was, first of all, when I was reading Huck Finn, I realized that I do not like Tom Sawyer, the character. Everything he did, seemed to fuck, and that was probably the point. He fucked things up. Things would be good and normal, and then he'd come up with this idea, we have to do this like this because of a book or whatever, and it would ultimately fuck things up. But what I appreciated by reading Huck Finn first, and then James, was that there were a lot of gaps where you see what's going on with Huck in Huck Finn, you don't see what's going on with James, appropriately so. This fills in those gaps and lets you look at things from a completely different perspective. And I really appreciated that. Like I said, this isn't one of my top books of the year because I have a different category, different things that I use to categorize that, but this is a really good book, and this is a book that I will always think about. Anywho, next up, what I want to say about this, I can't say because there was a twist at the end that changes everything. So I was going along reading this book thinking, oh, this is some nice little lesbian lit fic, not really understanding why it hit the Booker Prize list. And then the author flips a switch and you see things from a different perspective, kind of like James, you're looking at it from a different angle, and it's like, oh, shit. And this is, the oh shit thing is something, it goes along with a theme that I've been very interested in this year and a little bit of last year and plan to go on into next year with, but I can't tell you what it is. Anywho, the novel is The Safekeep by Yael van der Wouden. I think it might have made the short list. I really hoped that it would make the win. Apologies. I really hoped it would win because I love this. Even when it was just lesbian lit fic, it was just really nice and pleasant, really good read. I've got all these tabs. This is one of my favorite books of the year. It spoke to me and keeps on speaking. And that ending, the twist, I did not see it coming at all. I had to go back and look at some parts and see them differently. Fantastic book. So, a house is a precious thing. It's 1961, and the rural Dutch province of Overijssel is quiet. Bomb craters have been filled, buildings reconstructed, and the war is well and truly over. Living alone in her late mother's country home, Isabel knows her life is as it should be, led by routine and discipline. But all is upended when her brother Louis delivers his graceless new girlfriend, Eva, at Isabel's doorstep as a guest there to stay for the season. Eva is Isabel's antithesis. She sleeps late, walks loudly through the house, and touches things she shouldn't. In response, Isabel develops a fury-fueled obsession, and when things start disappearing around the house, a spoon, a knife, a bowl, Isabel's suspicions begin to spiral. In the sweltering peak of summer, Isabel's paranoia gives way to infatuation, leading to a discovery that unravels all she has ever known. The war might not well be truly over after all, and neither Eva nor the house in which the two women live are what they seem. Brilliantly plotted, uncommonly assured debut novel. This is a debut. I'm going to have my eye out on her because this was fantastic. Loved it so much. Love the twist. Love the novel. The writing was beautiful. Is this translated? It does not say. So if it's not translated, let me do a quick read here. It doesn't say. So if it's not translated, and this is all written in English, and English is not her first language, then it's just mind-blowing. Mind-blowingly good. So that's 3 so far that were from the Booker long list. We come now to book 4 from the Booker long list, which I did not like. This is not the book that I passionately disliked. I just did not like Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. Prior to reading this, I read There by him. And looking at it, I can appreciate this. I think I liked There better, but it seemed to me to, like, I put here, I said, yes, now we get to hear about Orville and what happens after There. But this part right here just seemed a slog for me. It just dragged on. And so it was not my favorite of the Tommy Orange books that I read. I can appreciate it, and I just reread the last sentence, which I underlined, and I appreciate it. I think it looks better from a distance. It just dragged for me. And it's funny, the part that dragged was the part that I had been looking forward to the most. So this is the follow-up to There. Colorado, 1864, which is way before There. Star, a young survivor of the Sand Creek Massacre, is brought to the Fort Marion prison castle, where he is forced to learn English and practice Christianity by Richard Henry Pratt, an evangelical prison guard who will go on to found the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, an institution dedicated to the eradication of Native history, culture, and identity. A generation later, Starr's son, Charles, is sent to the school, where he is brutalized by the man who was once his father's jailer. Under Pratt's harsh treatment, Charles clings to moments he shares with a young fellow student, Opal Viola, as the two envision a future away from the institutional violence that follows their bloodlines. And then it goes on to talk about the book. That's all it says about the book. There were some really good lines in here. I think Tommy Orange has a really great way with words. He speaks about post-traumatic stress, and I'm going to read a line, skip a paragraph, and then read the end of that paragraph. When you push it down, when you go to kill memory, it finds its ways to haunt you. There, where a man first held him down, gripped the back of his neck so hard his legs gave out on the floor of the bathroom of the boys' quarters at Carlisle. This is the memory he keeps but doesn't see. The one that lives in him, in a room he has all but abandoned. So perhaps I am too harsh on Wandering Stars. But again, I think it's because of this part right here in the middle, where when I got to the part I was really looking forward to, it didn't work for me. I could see myself going back to it, especially looking now, especially after the bad month I've had, where I thought this was a slog. This was comparatively, this was not. So I could see myself going back to this. I do see why now it made the Booker long list. He has a way with words. I will read him again. I just the middle of this did not really work for me. Okay. This next one surprises me a little. And I do wonder if the New York Times chose this because of the author's illness? Or what? That's Sophie Kinsella's What Does It Feel Like? I have a personal connection to this book. Not because I know Sophie Kinsella. I don't, although I grew up reading her. I use the word grew up lightly. This year, it was announced that Sophie Kinsella in 2022 had been diagnosed with glioblastoma, which is a deadly brain tumor. It is very aggressive. The fact that she's lived this long is a tribute to any advances they've made in healthcare in the past 10, 15 years. My mother passed away from glioblastoma in 2010. It was gut-wrenching to experience her illness, and so I had real trepidation about approaching this book. I bought it though, because I wanted to, at least have Sophie Kinsella get some royalties, and if not her, then her family. She is still alive from what I understand, but this book did surprise me. I can't give a personal opinion on how it is. I can't give a non-biased opinion. Because when I read this, I was going on in with the trauma of my own experience with glioblastoma, and I really was worried that it would just be devastating for me. Instead, I found it therapeutic, but let me tell you about the book. So this is a novel. Much of it is based on real life, but Sophie wanted, the way I understand it is, Sophie wanted the freedom to be a little bit more free with facts and truth than would require a memoir. Eve is a successful novelist who wakes up one day in a hospital bed with no memory of how she got there. Her husband, never far from her side, explains that she has had an operation to remove the large malignant tumor growing in her brain. As Eve learns to walk, talk, and write again, and as she wrestles with her diagnosis and how and when to explain it to her beloved children, she begins to recall what's most important to her. Long walks with her husband's hand clasped firmly around her own, family game nights, and always buying that dress when she sees it. Each of the brief anecdotes that comprise this book is an attempt to answer the type of impossible questions recognizable to anyone navigating the labyrinth of grief. This short, extraordinary novel is a celebration of life, shot through with warmth and humor. It will both break your heart and put it back together again. It did not break my heart. I've already had mine broken. I think the one part that did, I said this before when I talked about the book in my weekend books or whatever, the one part that really made me tear up was when they were telling the children, this is long after, I say long after, her surgery and recovery, they were telling the children, and the little girl says, but it's not fair. And I tear up when I think about that now, is because, and it's because it's not fair, and it's not fun, and it's a fucking beast of a disease, and that's not why we're here. So, what I did find was that this book was therapeutic for me. It enabled me for the first time to see the disease and the diagnosis and the surgery and the recovery not from my eyes, but from the eyes of the person who's suffering from that. And so that was really therapeutic. I wish now that I could have read this book and then gone back in time and changed how I behaved differently. Anywho, gonna move past that. Two more books left. If you follow this channel, you know that the past month and a half, really 2 months, month and a half, I have been struggling to read. And there's a couple reasons I've talked about. One is politics. Leading up to politics, it was really hard to pay attention to anything. The other is at the same time, which was, or during that same time, really started October 24th, I got my permanent crowns put on, And on that day, I decided that it was best for my dental health if I choose not to smoke for a while. So that contributed to my inability to focus and sit down and settle, because my brain just wouldn't, it had to distract me from what I really wanted to do, which was smoke. Which, by the way, is why I'm drinking ginger beer and not a mimosa or a glass of champagne, since this is the day off. But I did decide, why should I miss out on cute glasses? The answer is I shouldn't. Anywho, that's not why we're here. Ina Garten, Be Ready When the Luck Happens, is a book that I picked up. Usually do not read nonfiction on a weeknight, but I had been struggling so bad that I was like, let me try something different. And I loved this book. I learned so much about Ina Garten that I did not know. I started doing recently this Saturday series called Saturday Snacks, and I'm going to feature Ina at some point in the really near future. No, I'm going to feature Ina at some point because she's a great cook, and I've got some recipes that I want to share or look at again. Anywho, I really love this memoir. I learned so much about Ina and Jeffrey that I did not know. I think Martha Stewart has beef with Ina, but whatever. I can like them both. Here, for the first time, Ina Garten presents an intimate, entertaining, and inspiring account of her remarkable journey. Ina's gift is to make everything look easy, yet all her accomplishments have been the result of hard work, audacious choices, and exquisite attention to detail. In her unmistakable voice, no one tells a story like Ina, she brings her past and her process to life in a high-spirited and no-holds-barred memoir that chronicles decades of personal challenges, adventures and misadventures, and unexpected career twists, all delivered with her signature combination of playfulness and purpose. And yes, I really, really enjoyed this book. It's got lots of pictures, which is not necessarily something I need. I appreciate it in a memoir, though, because it helps me visualize Ina's big-ass house and her big-ass drink from the cocktail glass from the 2020, the year 2020. Anywho. Whew. Okay, one more book to go. This book was not on the Booker long list, but it is one of my favorite books of 2024. It really spoke to me when I read it. There are so many portions of this that I just could relate to personally. And I have been on a Kristin Hannah kick for the last year and some change. I'm going back through a lot of her back catalog, but now I'm getting to, authors improve as they go. And so now I'm getting to the ones where it's like, it's okay. But The Women, which came out in January of last year, and I've got to see if she's got something else. I need to follow her on something. If she's got something else coming out soon, because I adored The Women. I think this is peak Kristin Hannah. I hope it's not peak. I hope the peak, or if it is peak, I hope the peak lasts a long time. This to me was just perfection in a book. I said that I could relate to it, and here's why. She joined the army to find her brother and found herself instead. In war, she'd found out who she really was and who she wanted to be. And as tired as she was of all the death and destruction, she was also more than a little afraid to go home. What would life look like stateside? That is just one of the places that I tabbed where I could just really relate to the character. I felt like Kristin Hannah really put words to some things that other people wouldn't understand unless you had been there. Women can be heroes. When 20-year-old nursing student Frankie McGrath hears these words, it is a revelation. Raised in the sun-drenched, idyllic world of Southern California and sheltered by her conservative parents, she's always prided herself on doing the right thing. But in 1965, the world is changing, and she suddenly dares to imagine a different future for herself. When her brother ships out to serve in Vietnam, she joins the Army Nurse Corps and follows his path. As green and inexperienced as the men sent to Vietnam to fight, Frankie is overwhelmed by the chaos and destruction of war. I want to just stop right there. I'm not going to read the rest of that. I want to talk about... I said this book was powerful. You can get the idea from what I just read. But she does glamorize some things. But I went back and read a book that she used as a source for this. I don't have it in front of me. But it was a memoir. And some of these things, when I was thinking, as I was reading this, I was thinking about, man, some of these things just don't seem realistic. But then I remember reading the memoir, and it was realistic that these women actually went through these things coming back from Vietnam, and people just ignored their service or said women didn't serve in Vietnam or whatever. I'm getting really mad thinking about it. But Kristin manages to like polish things up a little bit, not unrealistically, not inappropriately, just makes it shine. So I really, really love this book. Anywho, my camera's gone dark, which means my battery is like, hey, you've been talking for a long time. So, anywho, those are the 8 books that I have from the New York Times Most Notable Books of 2024. I will be back tomorrow with the 7 books on this list that I have, but I have not read. There's obviously a ton of other books. I am trying to resist going through the list because I do not need to buy any more books. I bought more yesterday. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that is all for me. As always, thank you for sticking with me on my journey. I'd love to hear from you if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts on them are, and I'd just love to hear from you. I try to answer every comment that I get, always looking for a discussion about good books and reading. That is it for me. Happy reading!